Hi, I want to thank everyone for watching Homecoming and for coming back and joining us. We have a really nice discussion with just old friends, chatting with old friends, nothing formal, just old friends who attended HBCU who are going to share their experiences. My name is Ada Bobineau. I'm the founder and director of the San Antonio Black International Film Festival. And I want to just bring in Christopher Cathcart, who is a fellow alum at Howard University. We're going to also talk about Chris's book, The HBCU Experience, the book, and how it can relate to some of the things we're going to get into today. And then I have Eldridge Ryan, which is so formal. I never knew you as Eldridge. It was always Al.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, maybe now it can be Eldridge because you're older, but it was always
That's
Al.
right.
And Al was one of my roommates. We had a house very similar to the setup of the Eleanor by Eugene Ashe's film Homecoming. So how did that film, when you all watched it, it really resonated with me because I was like drawn in with the house and the storyline.
I can imagine. I can imagine for you in the house because your house was ground central for a whole bunch of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Party wise, for sure, and friendship.
But you had a house too.
I had a few. You had a home.
We had a home.
I had places I lived with a whole bunch of changing parts, different guys coming and going, women coming and going. But your spot was memorable because it was consistent. How long did you have?
We had a family. I mean, we ate dinner like a family, 2 guys, 2 girls. And then every weekend, Ada and her sister Karen would bring a bunch of women over. So it was just nice.
Yeah, it was actually so funny because my sister Karen, she's always been the role model to me. She brought me up. She saved a room for me. She actually found the house. Her and Al found the house, saved a room for me. So I came up to Howard the next year, which was '83. And they had a room and everything, and we just bonded. Al was all the Detroit crew, so his boys all Detroit. Everybody come visit Detroit, and then we were Texas, and I don't know where all else, but it was New York.
California crew coming over too, so it was a wonderful experience.
How many altogether at its height? Like when you were at full capacity, what was it?
4.
4?
Yeah.
4 rooms, and then we had a white landlord that lived in the basement.
Weird guy.
He never came up and stopped at the parties, though.
Nah, he didn't. He didn't bother. I mean, as long as the rent was on time, he didn't care.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we called him Chuckles. He never knew that, but that was.
He was one of those guys that married somebody from like the Philippines, like a mail order bride. I mean, that's how weird he was.
Oh man!
So that's what we were dealing with.
I had a house on Elm, around the corner from Slow.
Okay,
but it wasn't. It was just for one summer, and it literally was. No, it was a year. We did a year in the summer there. It was a weird station for a lot of cats, but it wasn't like that kind of home environment you guys had. Because you're right. When I would go to your house for parties, it would feel like I was at someone's home.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
As opposed to, there was a lot of students who rented homes, rented houses and lived in. Right. But you could tell the ones that were just kind of like transient. People came and went and they came. But you could tell the ones where the people there were like family. You guys were like.
Yeah.
So I never had Tex-Mex or, Louisiana gumbo. So it was an experience for me. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these guys are just VIPs to me. And there's so many attending an HBCU. We all attended Howard together in the 80s. That experience it's like the buffer zone before real life hits. You have your relationships, you have your love, you have your loss, you have it's like a buffer zone. That's why it's like and the memories made there are just unforgettable. The friends made there are just unforgettable. And you take that with you. So what were your impressions? I mean, I had impressions, but what were your impressions when you saw the film Homecoming?
You want to go first, Chris?
No, hop in there, Eldridge, and I'll jump in.
So what was interesting, I'm always skeptical about the production quality when I see a Black film majors. And so that was always, I was always kind of like too critical, I think. But I was surprised that the production quality was pretty good. I thought it was strange. I'm always like looking at the dialogue to see whether it's too wordy, too much dialogue. I thought the scene with the dinner was kind of interesting, but I thought the format of the story where they had tension, from past relationships or history, I thought they laid that out fairly well. But in terms of production quality, I thought it was on point. I was impressed with it. I thought the structure of the story and the plot itself was very well done, and it drew me in. I mean, I watched it in one night. I thought I would like watch it over a period of time, but I was up late one night. Ada said you got to watch it before the weekend. I did it, and I enjoyed it. So I thought it had all the elements. I could relate to the whole HBCU thing, and so I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
I was giving the technical part. I'm trying to get the emotional part of it, the love part of it.
You know what's funny? I didn't, because as Elle said, oftentimes if you work in kind of entertainment, bit of entertainment, you go to black films, you will start looking like, okay, what's the quality of the film? How well is it shot? How well is it acted? But I told myself, and I enjoyed it on those fronts. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that aspect, but I tried to connect on an emotional level. So I put all that stuff. I was like, okay, I'll put that aside. And I think if you went to an HBCU and you experienced homecomings, when you see films like that, you kind of see stories that you lived told in somebody else's voice and experience. So the dating experience of the friends who lived in a home or knew each other and they had a relationship, the how the tracks crossed, one guy and another, and even though it was kind of tragic that the two of them got together, if you could say that. But those kind of uncomfortable, tangled relationships do happen in that setting. So that really made me think about some experiences I had, a lot of my friends had, living with a lot of a crew hang out together, male and female, and like a lot of relationships and big brother, little sister, big sister, little brother, who you date, who you don't date, who breaks up, who's on whose side after they break up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just made me think about all those different things. And then you start saying like, okay, they got the cliche, the stepping scene and the dancing scene. But I was like, well, that's not really cliche, because when you get together homecoming, inevitably somebody's going to talk about what was that dance we used to do when it was such and such out in 82, and then somebody does it. And what was that song we used to sing before we did such and such, and somebody does it. So, the casual observer may say, okay, that's cliche. You see it in The Best Man, you see it in these other movies. But if you had that experience, you go, yo, that's kind of what we do. Now, what I didn't agree with or approve of, I'll have to be honest, them women were not drinking Old English out of the 40-ounce bottles 15 years out of school. They would have did that freshman year out or somebody. I was like, no, they ain't drinking Old English. When he opened the refrigerator, all that Old English, I went.
Yeah, I saw that.
And L, no glasses?
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, I hear you, man. No, I thought that was an interesting point. But I thought it was just sort of reminiscent that, this is the way we used to do it, because they were wine drinkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were like,
they made a hard left in like 5 minutes when the wine ran out, right?
Old English. I mean, who could even afford Old English shit?
But the part I thought was funny was the biracial girl, the sister whose husband died. He was the drug addict. He was the tragic figure. And they challenged her because she didn't know how to play bid whist. And they were like, no, we're going to take back your black card. But she did the Smurf, she did the Cabbage Patch, she got they asked her the test question of who wrote Malcolm X's autobiography. She passed that test. But I just thought that was interesting.
But what's funny? I can't play spades either.
Yeah, are you serious?
You wouldn't have? You can't play spades? I go, nah, I never learned.
Are you from California?
No, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Wow. Okay.
And that to me was so funny. Just going to Howard. I mean, just little things that people like call you out on that were never a big deal to you, and just like it's crazy. I mean, they like my girlfriends would call me light skinned. I was like, I'm not light skinned. I never even considered myself light skinned. Just little stupid shit that they would call you out on, and we stay up all night and have these discussions and arguments and just crazy stuff. But
You know what's funny? You talk about the complexion. You know, if you come from a small town, I come from a small town in Jersey, Plainfield. So, you know, there's not nearly as many people concentrated in one place as there was at Howard, not all together in one place. But I remember people saying, "Oh, you know such and such," and I go, "Who?" They go, "Such and such. She's light skinned." I go, "She ain't light skinned." And then their idea of what light skin was
all relative, right?
compared to mine, I'd be like, no. I know light skin. My mother's light skin. She ain't light skin.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny. But just, we're on the heels of Valentine's Day. So when you think of how love was portrayed in this film, because for me, what I like about it is you see the love of a couple, see the love of friends, and then you see the love of the whole HBCU. They're coming back together, uniting for homecoming. And so that, what do you all think about the different dimensions of love? Because everybody thinks of love, they think of one romantic thing, man, woman, love. But I like that the different, like I said, dimensions of love, the different portrayals of love was
Well,
brought.
I thought they did a very authentic job. And the reason why I'm going to say that, because, you know, the married couple, they got married right after college. You know, they had the baby immediately. They showed the struggle that couples go through. I mean, because there's this psycholytic or evolutionary process that all couples go through, right? And I thought they did that very accurately to say that, you know, it wasn't all fun and games. It wasn't perfect. They were growing apart, and it was a struggle. And I thought, you know, they get, you know, kudos in terms of authenticity from me based on that. I've been there, you know, so I can relate to that one. So that I give them that.
Yeah. No, and I like too how they did show there were couples that we went to school with who got married together immediately, right after, and had children like on schedule. And then there were others who went off and did their professional thing. And I like how that couple who had a thing back in the day, and then she was trying to rekindle, and he wasn't trying to rekindle because he was hurt. I think Barrett was the character's name, and I was like, yeah, that happened. That happened more than a few times. That was spot on, because you can think about your own situation, but just around your friends. And so I remember our first homecomings, the love relationships that existed when they were in school, they weren't done yet. I mean, I won't mention names. I won't get anybody in trouble. But that whole kind of energy, that was for real. Because I remember being at homecomings and somebody may have to leave the room because they're tearing up, or, you know, you got to pull your boy out and be like, hey, man, you know, you gotta let those things go. I remember those conversations. So that scenario, and I think when you watch films like that, you know, what it basically does is it gives you another avenue to revisit your own stories and history. Even though it may not be the exact scenario, but it'd be so similar that you'll see that yourself or some things you observe very close. So that part of the film really resonated with me.
Well, let me bring this up, because this is the part I did have a problem with. The thug character. I mean, you know, the story when I was at Howard, people would say, yeah, somebody's acting bad on campus, but you follow them back home, they were the nerd in the neighborhood, right? I mean, yeah, I didn't see any thugs there. I mean, they were wannabe thugs, but I thought that was kind of strange in that, you know, this guy goes off to New York. He works for Goldman Sachs. He can't seem to cut loose these dysfunctional attributes or characteristics he had grown up with. And then he had this like tragic spiral. So not to get too accurate about it, I think, you know, that could have been alcoholism. It could have been drugs, which it was in his case. But I thought the whole thug kind of, you know, mentality was a little strange for a college educated brother who finished.
But no, I mean, if you think about it, Al, people came together from so many different environments on Howard. I mean, I was first generation. My sister, we're first generation. Some people came from the country, some people came from the city. So there was a mix. I mean, we always thought Philly folks were hard, and you know, so I mean, people came from just different walks of life, and ended up in this wonderland of just filled with Black people, and the ability to get trained or educated, and have social experiences that added to their lives. But the amazing thing is when you leave that place and go back from the buffer zone to real life, real world, it hits you all across. I mean, there are certain things that happen in my life I didn't think would happen. You know, you're college, you don't think you're ever going to be unemployed. You're so idealistic. Oh, I'm going to work for so and so. I'm going to have my own business, and everything's going to go great. and then life sets in, and you have all these forces that you're challenged by to keep it going, to keep your head above water. So I've seen, people from college go into alcoholism.
Yeah, I agree with
And
that.
just all of that, and it's surprising because you knew them as they were, but life sets in, and different things happen. I know my brother that did all the right things, got married, and then once he divorced, everything spiraled out because it's like he had child support, you got to pay this, you got to pay that, and his whole trying to survive and keep his head above water, was hard.
If we went down, that's the side of going to college and HBCUs that we don't talk about. That it is real life, and it's not like everybody goes to college. It's like this quintessential. They're all going to go out and have this great profession and this great life and the 2 cars and 4 kids and all that. There were cats that would school with us and other schools, I'm sure, who came from the seedy side of the street, kind of brought the seedy side of the street with them to college, acted on that while they were in college. And if you stayed in touch with quite a few of them after college, they stepped way out of bounds, and some of them stepped really, really out of bounds.
Okay.
So, and I think what happens is that when we have a lot of these movies, and not just this one, but think of all the different movies and TV shows and all that, that side of it, though we know it exists, that side of it's real. It's just that that's not glamorous. And I think what they did with this cat was they kind of made him kind of a composite for like the bad guy.
Right.
Like every circle has the guy that's the bad guy. And the scene when he took advantage of the sister, as sad and tragic as that was to watch, you realize that at Howard, at other schools, that kind of thing, that would happen. I'm not trying to, that's just life. At all colleges, that kind of thing, unfortunately, would happen. And so the fact that they added that bit of realism to it, I thought that really added to the film.
And then the secret of it, and I know sisters who that happened to, and it's blocked out for 50 million years, and then it just surfaces one day, or a situation. The whole Me Too movement, all of that happened. The sisters people just kept it and then bring it out when it comes out, So yeah, that part was very, very real and tragic, but
I thought the writers did that brilliantly because, I thought the baby was going to be, the daughter was going to be his daughter, which
I was thinking that too. So I'm glad it was, yeah.
But I thought what it did for me, having been through counseling and marriage counseling, you never quite understand why they behave the way they do. You could easily get upset and like, I'm frustrated, but I thought this writer did an excellent job of showing that, there's a root cause to her issues and that would manifest themselves in the marriage. And so having been through marriage counseling, I'm saying, I thought they did that realistically and brilliantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, when you were at homecoming too, you run into some sisters you were tight with, maybe you didn't date, and they still got a beef with a cat. Right? I never liked him. And then you find out later, I'm not saying it was to that degree that something went down, but something bad happened between them that you go, oh, okay. Yeah. I never knew the details, but she never really dug him. And now I kind of understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think, post-college, there's just so much that happens. But I think being at that place, being well, for us, it was all Howard, what it built in us in terms of survival mechanisms, and the people that attracted us to our lives, the friendships we developed, I think that carries us in terms of, I still talk to, there's some friends that I've lost closeness with. There's some who I may not speak to in 10 years, but when we talk, it's like yesterday. So you have all those feelings, and it is love. It is a love for, I love both of you all. I never had no, it's just like a sister, brother, whatever love, but there is love for you. I care what happens to you, your life. And it's good when we connect, when we connect, it is good. It's nice.
Ada, can I share this story with you?
You always had stories. Yeah.
So, Chris, you're going to appreciate this. So, I'm living in the house with, creative people. Karen was, she was a business person, but some of these guys were film majors. And this one brother, he was from San Antonio, their homeboy. And he was a nerd. I was a cooler nerd, but he was a real nerd. And he had taken this creative writing course, and he had to write this story. And I came from an industrial blue collar town, and I'd never met anybody who had written a story before as a Black, right? Black people write stories. I didn't know that, right? So this brother writes this story. He's testing it out on me. And I'm not a critic because I had never met anybody who wrote a story before. So the story sounded great to me. So, he goes off to his class, and they do, with Haile Derima, the film director, and they have to present their story. So I was excited when he came back to the house, like, how did it go? And he had gotten his ass kicked. And briefly, the story was about these teenage boys. They're white, and they're not going anywhere. They're not thugs, but they're just aimless. And they see this sister come out of an office building, and one of them decides to rape her. And so they try to gang rape this girl, this sister. The police come in, and they break up the assault, and they shoot the one guy who doesn't participate. He goes into this afterworld. So the brothers in Haile's class said, well, first of all, this is the problem with your story. Like, first, why does sister got to get raped, right?
That's probably to start with, yes.
Yeah, let's start and end right there, right?
Let's start in right there. Like, first of all, why does sister got to get raped? And then, the story was this protagonist, this white guy, goes into like purgatory. He goes into this other world, and God says, in order to get to heaven, you got to go help this other world out of people populated by the people of the dominant features, Black people. And their world is chaotic. And this white dude goes to that world to straighten it out. They're like, then why does the white dude got to go help out, the Black place? And so you can imagine, man, they ripped him a new, butthole. I mean, it was just crazy. But for me, it was educational because I never thought about imagery, structure of a story. If you're writing a story, you have control of that. But this brother was, I'm going to say a victim of the society that, Black people are bad, white people are good, and this white character was going to save the Black people. Yeah. And Howard,
Haile Garima got hold of that one. It was like,
yeah. Wow, you remember that?
I mean, like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And so that's what Howard did for me. And I could see in this story. So I started looking at stories critically like that now. But before I didn't know you could. I didn't know you were allowed.
I wonder
who knew about Black independent film? I didn't even know it existed until I went to Howard.
No, I remember. Listen, the when She's Gotta Have It comes out was right after Howard, I think.
Right.
That was the first time for many of us, with the whole the Black aesthetic in film. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the first film that I ever went to see twice in 1 week. Because I was like, it was because, but it made me connect to it was a direct relationship to the experience that I just had at Howard, and then seeing Black life played out on the screen after just leaving Howard. It was like, wow, where is this? Mm-hmm. So I'm happy for this film, this homecoming film, because it gives a chance that for the more recent generations that there are reiterations of those kind of films. And even though She's Gotta Have It wasn't about college per se, it had that kind of college energy to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It had a beat, it had a vibe, it had a pace that was very reminiscent of like a Black college vibe. So,
so how did y'all end up at Howard? I mean, me was my sister. She was just ahead of her time bringing me there. But how did you two even end up at a HBCU?
I transferred.
I got a football scholarship.
You got a scholarship?
I'll be honest. I like to think I got Malcolm X and Martin and everybody over my shoulder, and my dad was in the Nation of Islam, so I was always kind of like introduced and had an appreciation for African American culture and history. But I was not thinking about HBCUs as a conscious thought. That's where I wanted to go. So I played football, and I got a few scholarship offers: University of Delaware, Delaware State. Some other schools. When Howard came and called, I remember when I was in my class, the way I used to do it is that they would call you to the principal's office. You thought you were in trouble, but there would be a recruiter there. And I went and saw this brother named Ken Mack, who was recruiting for Howard. They talked. They took me in for a visit, right? They took me and this other brother that was from nearby town, who also went to Howard, became my first roommate at school. Took us down, ate in the spring. Took us to the yard. I saw all those sisters on the yard. They took us to a party at the Harambe House, which became the Howard Inn, was the Harambe House then.
Oh yeah.
And so I ain't gonna lie, they got us liquored up. They took us around all them sisters. And then I was like, well, hell, where do I sign? Now, I always tell people, if I never get any more good fortune in my life, the fact that I was recruited to play football at Howard, that got me there.
Nice.
Then I came out way ahead. If I don't get any other good fortune, because that was so life-changing. But that it was a football scholarship. And then, other things just took off after that.
So I had a cousin that was in dental school there. And he said, man, you got to come here. And so I transferred down there. And one of my mentors framed it this way. He said, because I grew up in an industrial, blue collar kind of Polish community. So I didn't know anything about Black identity, any of that stuff. I had negative views about Black people. And so one of my mentors said, it'd be nice for once in your life to be a majority, right? I never even thought about that. And, the way my cousin framed it, he's like, man, you walk into the student center, man, they're playing your music, man. You're not listening to Led Zeppelin or no Kiss or anybody like that. Everything is centered around you. And that was just such a strange concept for me that, you don't even think about race there.
You don't.
And so it was just beautiful to be around, as I frame it, 8,000 Black scholars, and then to meet the brothers and sisters from around the world. And even though we're different, kind of nationally, you can see the resemblance that our culture over thousands of miles and hundreds of years, how we maintain some of those same traditions. And I'm just amazed at that. I'm like, wow, meet the brothers from the Caribbean and their curry chicken and peas reminded me of, smothered chicken and rice and peas, It's like, man, we eat the same thing, but a little bit different. But anyway, it's just nice to be around our cousins.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember coming there because I had gone to California an art school first one semester. And I just went to visit, and just being at the bus stop, it was just like, just Black people. I mean, it was just like, I was like so excited to be, came home, I had to come back and reapply. But it was just so excited to be in that environment. I mean, none of us pledged though. Nobody pledged. I mean, I pledged Ubiquity, which was a co-ed organization, but nobody pledged. But on the yard on Friday was magical.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Friday at noon at HBCU, Howard in particular, it was just magical. You have all the fraternities, sororities step in, and everybody's on the yard in the summertime. And Chris is modest, but he was actually the student association president. What brought that on? What made you run for president?
You were Houston president?
Yeah, he was president. He was one of the rebels.
So that was after Howard Newell, right?
Yeah, 2 years after Howard and Nate Jones, and then me and Minotti.
Okay.
Oh, God,
we had been protesting with Howard in '83. We were protesting when Janice McKnight was fired from the campus editor was fired from the paper by the administration. And we got involved. A brother named Howard knows, a mentor of mine, was president of student government at that time, and he's leading the protests. And I always wanted to do more than just, be an athlete. I wanted to get involved with the campus, the campus life and political activity on campus. And I kept getting injured. So I gave up the scholarship, and after my sophomore year, and I just, got a gig. I started working as a security guard and taking out loans like everybody else to get through school. And I got more active on campus. And so I remember I figured I couldn't do no worse as student government president as anyone else. I didn't think we'd win. Me and my boy Minotti Jenkins, we talked about, well, we'll raise some good ideas and some issues that people need to follow, and we'll run, and then we won't win, but we'll bring up some good things that people need to know about. And lo and behold, we tricked enough people to have elected us, so we got in there, and it was fun.
So is it true that you had a stipend?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you and Minotti hook up? Like, did y'all know each other
during the protest? Minotti?
Yeah.
We met during the protest in '83, that spring we met, and this is how we really bonded. It's kind of a tragic, funny story. We took over the administration building.
I remember that.
And for those who may be watching, when you go take over the administration, but you got to go and you lock the doors and you block the doors. And so we held a sit-in in the back of the administration building to keep we asked all employees to leave, just leave before we do this. And some of them didn't leave. And we had to sit in, and he and I were locked arms together, sitting there and chanting. And most of the people there, they want to step on us, and they were people like carrying over some of the sisters so they wouldn't step on us. One sister, she wasn't having us keeping up and get home. And she went on her one-woman march across us, stepping on me and him. We was like, and we were getting stepped on. We were laughing because it was like, this has got to be the funniest thing we ever went through in our lives. So we were sitting there with our arms locked. That's how we more or less bonded. And then, we're still best of friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a time. 80s was really a lot going on at that time. Remember, that's when they were marching for MLK holiday when Stevie Wonder came. And
that
apartheid South Africa was still going on. We protested for that, and yeah, it was a lot happening in the 80s. And yeah, and you all came right after Nate Jones, who stood up on the flagpole to the president of the university. He's like, "I want your resignation."
Oh, that was Howard Newell.
Howard Newell, not Nate Jones. Howard Newell. Oh my God, how did I forget that?
So I'm not going to say it here because it'd probably take too much time, Chris. But I got to tell you a crazy story about Howard Newell and Connie. And he had the HUSA presidency, and then he took the No Bucks presidency the same year. And he collected like $10,000 in stipends from the two organizations, plus a travel budget. I'm like, man, brothers at Howard know how to hook themselves up.
Wait, I heard that story. That ain't necessarily a fact. We're going to talk about
this legend.
That's been embellished. I heard that story. And, I'm going to stand up for my man Howard. That ain't necessarily a fact. But the stipend thing, I want to be clear.
Okay.
Just so people know, when you're student government president, vice president, all the administration gets paid, your tuition comes out of it and all that. My year, they give you a cap, right? A ceiling, right? I almost never talk about this story. So I reduced it so that more money would go towards the general administration funding, right?
Okay.
And they put that in the Hilltop, the campus paper. So I was walking out of class, and one of my professors said, "Chris, come here for a second." I said, "What?" He went, "Did I read that you gave back some money?" And I went, "Yeah, I guess." I know. He went, He shook his head. I went, "I gave the money back." And my professor looked at me like, "You dumbass."
Who's the professor? Who's the professor?
I wouldn't out him.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny.
I wouldn't out him either. So there was a good times. I mean, there was all kind of. I mean, that's the whole thing about that. When you're, it's like a little city when you're on campus, and it's not just Howard. It's all the schools, all the HBCUs, and all the schools. Right. You got like your little government, your little communities, your little communications network. And the cool thing about, like, I recruit for Howard out here for the Alumni Association, and one of the things I always have to tell the parents is that your child will still get a diverse experience at an HBCU. It's not like we all think the same, dress the same, listen to the same music. We don't all sit at the same cafeteria table in the lunchroom. We still find our crew. We still find our niches. The Greek letter fraternities, the sororities, the fashionistas. They get together and do their thing. The politicos get together and do their thing. The international students do their thing. Then you have students who segregate based on region. So you could legitimately walk down the hallway of a dorm and hear Parliament Funkadelic, Led Zeppelin, John Coltrane, Joni Mitchell, right? And it not be weird.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody might hip you to something that you hadn't really heard about or thought about before. So that was always cool. So even though we did really look alike, obviously, we weren't in the most important senses, we were connected. But we still had our individuality, ideas, likes. So you can still get a diverse experience at an HBCU. It's not all cut from the same cloth.
What do y'all think about Kamala? It was in my class. What do y'all think about even the possibility of one of us making it to VP of the country? Isn't that wild? It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I've been riffing. I'll let you riff on that out.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I met a woman who was an executive at the NIH, Howard grad, 1960. And she said one thing that she learned was Howard teaches you how to deal with a bureaucracy. Right?
Oh, the A building for sure.
That's what she said. She said she believes that's part of the educational process, right? Because she ran an organization. I think she had like 5,000 people in her organization. And she attributed Howard to helping her kind of navigate the whole government maze and bureaucracy that, she was like, you will always find a Howard grad that figured it out. And I think the school kind of forces you to do that in that environment.
Yeah, they've had some amazing people come out of Howard. Amazing. And just
was interesting to the film. I like the fact that they made the brother a professor at the school.
Yeah.
Relative to what you're saying now, because that kind of tied in that piece. I thought that was a more important piece than your casual observer would probably pay attention to.
Right.
But the fact that he got his degree and he stayed there and he taught and he's giving back and he's like he said, I have these intellectual conversations with these students and TAs. I mean, that part did resonate with me too.
But also the varied degrees of where the friends went post Howard. One doctor, one's a exec at a studio, one struggled, barely making it, single mom, getting with the wrong dude, just that dimension of them. And then they still could connect. Like nobody had airs. No one really put on airs against each other. You could tell they were still connected. One was still helping out the sister, the one who had the son whose husband went to jail,
Right.
whatever.
That was a good
The
test.
other one was still supporting her. She was still sending her checks. I mean, you have that. When it's low, it's like, yo, I'm kind of low on funds. I mean, I still do that today.
You got people you're real with. I mean, you got that. That's where history comes in at, right? I mean, you can't pretend to be something else with people like, you kind of share that life experience with.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that to people you don't know, but people they're not going to let you get away with it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you're in your 20s, you ain't got shit. You ain't got nothing.
That's right.
You're living in a twin bed usually.
On the floor.
On the floor, yeah. My mom said she cried when she saw my bed on the floor. I thought it was cool.
Because I won't even embarrass myself and tell you how long it took me to get an actual bed frame. All right.
But you were still you were still catching. You were still bringing in women out. You were still bringing in women in your bed on the floor.
That little stereo
on the floor, right? So you can lay it over, just turn the knob, right? So yeah, it's like that's
the time when you're like stripped of everything. You have nothing.
Yeah.
And so you can really, really relate. There's no airs. It's very real. Even connecting with you, Al, you were like, yeah, I'm taking care of old people now. I get it. Yeah. You ain't gotta say, and that's why I didn't want to start this conversation with, oh, so and so is this and this and this and your titles. You don't need all that. You just be happy with me. Period. But Chris, you did write a book.
Yes.
On the HBCU.
Well, I edited it. I edited with assistant named Tia Tyree. She's a PhD professor at Howard now. HBCU Experience, the book, is a collection of essays celebrating the Black college experience, much like what this movie's about. But it talks about all kind of different experiences people had, from dating to road trips to sports, pledging sororities or fraternities, not getting accepted into sororities and fraternities, which is a reality for a lot of people, unfortunately. And it basically kind of like we wanted to take all the various experiences that Black college students had, put a handful, 60 some odd, just above 60 essays in the book. But they were kind of representative of other people's experiences too. So if you read through some experience somebody had at Prairie View A&M or FAMU or Hampton Institute, Hampton University, or Howard or Delaware State, even though it's not your exact experience, just like with this movie, you'll find elements in it that will be reminiscent of experiences you had. So if you're a graduate, you can get into it. And if you never went to an HBCU, it will give you some insight into like just basically how we got down at our schools. And I'm working on volume 2 now. Hopefully it'll be out at the end of the year, because we have an untold number of stories to tell. You can never really put them enough movies, books, TV shows, articles. So that ground will stay fertile for a long time. So HBCU Experience, the book, is available. You can get it at my website, blackcollegebook.com, and I'm working on volume 2, and all information about the book, volume 1 and 2, is on the website. Thanks.
Well, Howard Grad wrote the preface. Cummings, who passed away, wrote your preface, didn't he?
Oh, Elijah Cummings, who went to Howard University, congressman out of the Baltimore area. God rest him. He wrote the foreword. We were very blessed to have him do it. He was something else. And he was one of those brothers that was not just an elected official like on television. You know, he did his work. You know, he put in his time. You know, he fought hard for HBCUs. He's one of the few elected officials. You know, anybody lived in D.C. probably went to Congressional Black Caucus at least once.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few cats I didn't know. I remember just grabbing him. We had a real conversation. I won't tell you the words he used because we were talking about some of his Republican opponents, and he was not holding back. I was like, brother, I saw you on TV the other day. And he said, man, those dudes are crazy. And we just pulled me aside. We had this was before the book. We had a real good, you know, serious brother to brother conversation. So hats off to him always. Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah. It's been, I mean, what I enjoyed.
And Ada has an essay in the book, by the way. So
okay, cool.
You know what essay I have, Al?
Which one?
I wrote about that time. It snowed the entire weekend.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
In February.
Yeah, I have to check it out.
School was out.
Yep, everybody came over.
We decided to have a freaking party.
That's right. I remember that.
On my birthday this week too is coming up again. But we decided to have a party in the snow.
Yeah.
We ended up having a weekend party. It was wonderful. We
Can you see that?
snowball fights. We made
Is Al in this picture?
or something.
No, I'm not in the picture, I don't think.
We probably beat him up with snowballs. That's why. But his Detroit crew came, and all my girls came from the Connecticut.
It was crazy, man.
What was the title?
What was it called? The winter party of all parties.
I mean, people still talk about that party, man. I mean, it was like nuts. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
I didn't mean to pull out a prop, but when you went there, I had to go there.
So, hey, Chris, let me tell you this one part. So one of my boys, you know, he's an engineering student. He said that he had never met Earl. And we had some Everclear, you know, that 100% alcohol kind of thing. And we told him, don't drink that. He's like, this is what he said. I don't know Earl. Nobody in my family knows Earl. He drank that, man. And I mean, he could have died. I mean, it was the alcohol.
Earl that night, though, wasn't
It was like that, right? And he locked himself in the bathroom, vomited everywhere. And we lived in this old house that had like those vents above the door. And I was the only one skinny enough that they stuck glass
out through the vent.
So I could like down and unlock the door because he was like passed out, man. It was crazy, man.
Wait, but one of my girls got drunk too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy. It was crazy. It was so much.
You turn off any of these innocent people watching this who might want to go to HBC.
We're not mentioning names.
We talk about Old English. We talk about Everclear, Overproof.
Yeah,
we didn't drink wine back then. No, we used to have beer mugs. Those beer jug mugs.
Exactly.
Oh my God!
I had my run-ins with Overproof.
I had forgotten about that. Al. That's hilarious.
Time out on Overproof. Overproof was it was unforgiving.
Yeah. Can you imagine drinking that today?
No, that's why in the movie when they pulled out them 40s.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I would be asleep for a month if I drank a 40-ounce of Old English now. In freshman year, we drank that. We drank malt liquor all the time. I hate
malt liquor.
I can't touch that stuff no more.
That was a DC drink too. That Colt 45.
Colt 45, Swiss Malt Liquor Bull, Old English, Cokie 900, Private Stock. I'm giving myself
Chris,
away.
You know them all. That's two.
Giving myself away.
No, some of the things it's so funny. Some of the things, if our parents only knew.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is that I once again when I do the recruitment for like the students here, I get a sense that some parents want to be real protective. Like I don't want my baby to struggle, and I got to make sure their phone doesn't get cut off. And I'm like, no, let the phone get cut off sometime. Let them go to financial aid office and wage battle on their own behalf sometimes. You know, the whole, like you said, Ada, a minute ago, like how we came through and, you know, what we learned about ourselves. Well, I mean, y'all lived in a house. So, I mean, tell me if these things had happened. The heat gets cut off. The lights get cut off. the phone is.
You guys you took care of business, so
you gotta go downtown.
We were like a little family unit. We had responsibilities.
Hey, every place I lived, there was some kind of struggle at times for some kind of things that we kind of like take for granted we can handle now. The times we learned we could handle them, we're then.
Yeah.
Now I'm not. My cell phone gets cut off. I'm like, all right, I get on the phone and work it out.
Yeah. And just because I see it now, my sister sent her daughter to Howard, gave her a credit card and this and that. We she's riding Uber around. We had to go to the bus stop, find the bus stop. I don't even think Subway was big back then. It was walking.
There was no line at Howard. There was no green line.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you stronger. It makes you able to deal with life better. I mean, I compare my nieces and them compared to what I was doing at 21 and how independent and free spirit I was. It's like, huh? Like, what is it? It's just amazing.
Imagine if we had the internet.
Yeah. Right.
It just to study.
Yeah.
Right. Just well, you guys had to leave your house and go to Founders and go into the stacks and pull your books out and
my God. That hot library and medical library, studying all night, pulling an all-nighter. Oh, yeah.
The thing I did enjoy was Howard University Hospital cafeteria. Their soul food. If I needed my mother was always big on a balanced meal. You can go to the hospital, you can eat greens, chicken, or meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and have a full balanced meal for like $3. I don't know whether you guys ever ate there.
And the cool thing is that we talked about the Howard experience, but that's really representative of many HBCU experiences. Yeah. Where they had the woman in financial aid or the man in financial aid who took to you like a relative, like boy, bring your paperwork here at 4:00.
Right.
I want to tell you again, that kind of like get down, or the woman in the cafeteria saying, "Oh, go ahead, take a little bit extra." I mean that. When I talk to my friends and other people I met who go to other HBCUs, I always talk about how that feeling of somebody took care of you beyond just their work. It was more than just a gig, So that kind of HBCU experience, I think, goes across the board to all our schools.
Yeah. No, I think about the mentorships too that I've gotten from Howard. I mean, I would like a mentor. Hailey Green is like a mentor to me, but just having filmmakers and stuff that brought you into a profession that you didn't even know existed. I mean, and then teaching you survival skills that are anti-industry, but it gives you a balance to be able to work in both worlds. For me, it has to be able to work industry and non-industry. But yeah, just the people there that you meet, not only students, but just like the lectures that I went to, the musical concert. Remember that Prince concert? Oh my God.
Yeah,
86 Prince in the heyday at a homecoming concert.
So is it true that HUSA actually negotiated those contracts with the artists and stuff?
No, that was the homecoming committee would do that.
Oh, homecoming, okay.
The students did that, right? Homecoming committee was its own funded.
Okay, got you. Okay.
But for students to be doing that, it's like, wow.
It wouldn't happen at the University of Michigan,
Well, Prince concert.
I tell you what, I listened to, not to knock some of the predominantly white institutions in DC when we were there, but I remember my first summer in DC, I went to American University, had an outdoor concert. It was a major white act, which I can't remember, but Shaka Khan was the other one. Shaka Khan. And it was, I tell you about the PWIs though. I mean, all the beer was free.
I had the budget and everything.
Overflowing. So me and my boy Jay, we went over there and I forgot who the other act was, but it was just Shaka Khan. I was like, oh, wow, it was great.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of your friends going to? Like you mentioned Jay. Like I know Jay turned into this.
Oh, he's an artist. Jay Dara. You guys Google him, Jay Dara Artwork. He's amazing. I got pictures around. He used to draw us, protesting, giving speeches. And so now he's really acting on his dreams. I'm very happy, very proud of him. And Minotti, he's a top flight frontline attorney based in the DC area, working out of both DC and Chicago. But all my friends, I mean, everybody, I'm at the point now, if my friends are healthy, their families are healthy, if their children are healthy, they're making as much money as they legally can. And I have to put the emphasis on legally can. Mm-hmm. I'm just, and that you kind of go through that arc. When you first come out, you still wear that thing like, I got to be successful. How am I going to gauge success? How am I going to be measured successful? And then you kind of go through that. and you realize, yo, we get to be our age. Are you happy? Are you healthy?
Yeah.
Particularly now with all the stuff that's going on, I'm like,
Yeah.
all my friends I'm still in touch with, Ada included. We can reach each other. We can support each other if necessary. So in that sense, we're all blessed. I hope it keeps going that way.
Hey, Chris, you remember a brother named AJ in the School of Communications?
AJ. What was his?
He's a big time. He shot Daughters of the Dust, but he's done a number.
What's his last name?
What was AJ's last name?
Arthur
Jaffe. Yeah.
Oh, I remember him. I remember his name. We're not close, but I remember him.
So check this out. I mean, I'll send it to you on Facebook. It's an article written, in the New York Times. And he was saying that he had gotten major into a depression. And he's hanging out with these filmmakers on the West Coast. And he's talking about being suicidal. And one of the young filmmakers was like, what the hell are you talking about? We all look up to you. And he said he used the analogy of Lord of the Rings. I don't know the characters, but this kid was like, man, you're like, Fredo, and, we look up to you. You're our guy, And he said that his issue was that he didn't reach a level of success he thought he would. 'Cause we thought he would have been like a Spike Lee before Spike Lee. That's how deep this brother was. But he found his own. And he's doing he's being recognized internationally now. Mm-hmm. And so it was just kind of cool to read this story and know how brilliant he is and, what he had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you never really know how people look at you when you're in school, though. You find out later, you talk to people, oh, I loved you about this, that, and other thing. You'd be like, well, I didn't know that then. I didn't. Yeah. So you always have like how you see yourself, how others see you, and where is the truth?
Right.
Does it meet in the middle or does it matter? But that's I talk to young people. I go, you got to decide early in your careers in college, how are you going to define success for yourself? Because a lot of people are going to have definitions for you.
Right.
And and the one cool thing about being in school, even with the movie, is that people do go different cuts. There's different avenues, different ways to monitor and gauge success, different ways to monitor and gauge how what you're doing with your life. So you just always be mindful that at the end of the day, you have to answer to yourself,
Well, that self-love is important, period. And I think for me, I mean, I've always had a sense of self-love, but I think when you go to universities and places like Howard, like HBCUs, when you go to those places, when you meet the people, that just kind of it could reinforce your self-love, or it could spiral. Because I know people that like left Howard with, very, very negative opinions as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, very negative. The A building really stayed with them, and that A building experience. But yeah, it does start with self, though. It does start with the self-love, and so that's very important to extend even beyond, friendships, relationships, whatever.
Now, this is something interesting. A number of my friends went to predominantly white university, but all their kids went to Howard.
Really?
So it was fascinating to see this. And these are kids who grew up in the suburbs, private school education, that whole thing. But I mean, probably 80% of the kids in our social circle, the kids went to Howard, even if they didn't go, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, mine went to an HBCU, but not Howard.
That's great. I tell people I love all HBCU. I'm very happy I went to, but I don't. All of them they all bring something to the table. Yours went to Morgan, right?
Yeah, Morgan State.
Great school.
And her experience was so much different than mine, which is like. But I mean, she didn't meet her lifelong girlfriends, or she didn't have that experience. So she had a different experience. We all.
My son went to.
But that's part of it too. Is that I always want to explain to people the experience is wonderful, but it's extremely unique still. So I have friends. I played ball with one of my good friends. Was a roommate for a while. He actually told me that he didn't have a good time at Howard. He told me I did not enjoy my time at Howard. It was not among the best years of my life. And I'm going,
I know.
Oh my gosh, like, the Home Alone thing. I'm like, oh, how is that possible? But then when you start rapping him, like, I got to respect that. I got to respect what you went through personally. And we all have our insecurities. You're on campus and all the cool people and the most popular ones, they seem like they really got this stuff together and they don't got no problems and money's flowing. And you're like, I don't even know how I'm gonna eat. And I'm trying to take somebody out and I got like $10 and half of that got to be bus fare. And then you realize that everybody had their thing with them. Everybody struggled in their own way. Everybody had their insecurities. It's just that nobody's are as bad as yours when you're going through it. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole process, you come out knowing that you can navigate through these waters,
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been nice.
Thank you for including us.
Yeah, this has been nice. I was supposed to bring on one of my girls, but she couldn't make it. She was out doing her performing thing. But I'm glad we could get together and under the guise of homecoming, under the guise of pre-Valentine's Day. So I want to thank you all. Definitely check out Chris's book, The HBCU Experience, the book. What's the website again, Chris?
www.blackcollegebook.com. It's very easy to remember.
Yeah. And Al, you celebrate your mom's 90th. So wonderful. Just, continue on, moving on, be safe, be healthy. And love you all.
Love you, Ada. Thank you for it was good.
Yeah.
Better than Facebook, Chris, seeing you.
I know that's a way to connect.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Yeah. But I want to thank all Black TV and the Carver community. The Carver Library here in San Antonio for partnering with us and with the film Homecoming. I want to thank Eugene Ashe, the filmmaker.
Congratulations, excellent job.
Yeah. And you all just be safe and consider an HBCU.
Please.
Consider an HBCU. So we're signing off and stay tuned for more things that we have coming up for SABIFF. We have on the 27th, a Black rodeo, our Black rodeo roundup. We have a Black professional bullfighter coming up in his film, the next 8 seconds. Which is 8 seconds is critical for bull riding. So we're going to talk about that and see the film. And then we have other things coming up throughout the year. And our festival, our big festival is going to be in October. It's September 30th through October 3rd. So thank you all. You all take care and be safe. Have a good rest of the year.
All right, guys. Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.